Namaste, friends. For centuries, the Mahabharata has resonated within the hearts of millions. A timeless epic filled with mighty warriors, profound wisdom, and the eternal struggle between right and wrong, good and evil. But sometimes, the sheer grandeur and complex storytelling of this epic can seem daunting. This book, The Great War of Dharma, Lessons from the Mahabharata, is my humble attempt to make this incredible story and its invaluable teachings accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or familiarity with ancient Indian scripture. Think of this book not as a dusty history lesson, but as a close friend whispering timeless wisdom in your ear. We'll journey together through the lives of the Pandavas and Kauravas, witnessing their triumphs and failures, their loves and losses, and ultimately, the consequences of their choices. But this isn't just about recounting an old story. It's about extracting the powerful lessons embedded within, lessons that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. We will explore the concept of dharma, often mistranslated as destiny or religion, but which is actually our duty, our path to righteousness and fulfillment. Dharma isn't some external rule. It's an internal compass that guides us through life's most difficult crossroads. We will also understand the intricate workings of karma, not as a divine punishment or reward system, but as the echo of our actions, the ripple effect of our choices that shapes our future. Through relatable examples and clear explanations, we will untangle the complexities of human emotions, greed, envy, love, compassion, all so vividly portrayed within the Mahabharata. You'll see how the characters grapple with these emotions and how their choices, driven by these emotions, ultimately lead to happiness or destruction. This book aims to be your companion on a journey of self-discovery, a guide to navigating the challenges of modern life with ancient wisdom. You will learn how to identify your own dharma, how to make mindful choices, and how to cultivate inner peace amidst chaos. The Great War of Dharma is not just a book about the past, it's a book for the present, designed to empower you to create a more meaningful and fulfilling future. By the end of this book, you will have a deeper understanding of yourself, your purpose, and the interconnectedness of all things. So, let's begin this enlightening journey together. The introduction gives a glimpse of how this ancient text remains relevant to us today. Each chapter reveals lessons that are practical and transformative. Subscribe to our channel to continue this journey of understanding and enlightenment. Let's explore the depths of this timeless wisdom together. All right, my friends, let's embark on a journey into the heart of the Mahabharata, a story not just of kings and wars, but of ourselves. In this book, The Great War of Dharma, Lessons from the Mahabharata, will unpack the profound wisdom held within those ancient verses, making it accessible to everyone. Forget complex jargon. We'll speak a language of the heart and mind, relatable and practical for our modern lives. Chapter 1. Seeds of Conflict. Understanding the Kurukshetra setting. Every mighty oak, every towering skyscraper, begins with a single seed or a meticulously laid foundation. Similarly, the epic battle of Kurukshetra, this grand clash of destinies, sprouted from seeds planted long before arrows flew and war cries echoed. To understand the war, we must first understand the ground on which it was fought, the families, the rivalries, and the simmering resentments. Two branches stemmed from the Kuru dynasty, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Pandavas, 5 in number, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev, were born of Kunti and Madri, blessed by divine intervention. The Kauravas, 100 strong, were the sons of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. Dhritarashtra, being blind, was bypassed for the throne, a decision that sowed the first seeds of resentment within the family. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, possessed an unwavering sense of dharma, a commitment to righteousness and justice. He was considered the rightful heir, further fueling the Kauravas' jealousy and ambition, particularly that of Duryodhana, the eldest Kaurava. Duryodhana, consumed by envy and thirst for power, saw the Pandavas as obstacles to his own aspirations. Their relationships, strained by ambition and insecurity, became a breeding ground for conflict. It wasn't simply about land or power. It was about perceived slights, unaddressed grievances, and a fundamental failure to communicate with empathy and understanding. The rivalry between these cousins grew, fueled by the manipulations of Shakuni, Duryodhana's cunning uncle, who skillfully played on their weaknesses and insecurities. This initial dispute over inheritance and power is crucial. Think of it like this. Imagine a family business where siblings feel unequally valued. Over time, these feelings fester. Small disagreements turn into full-blown arguments. Legal battles ensue. The family fractures. The business crumbles. This is the essence of what happened with the Kurus. The Mahabharata teaches us a vital lesson. Unresolved issues, especially within families, can metastasize into something far more dangerous than the original problem suggests. Understanding the origins of a conflict, the little resentments, the unspoken expectations, the unresolved traumas, is essential for finding meaningful and lasting solutions. Only by acknowledging the seeds of conflict can we hope to prevent them from blossoming into destructive wars, both within ourselves and in the world around us. Chapter 2, Dharma at Crossroads, Yudhishthira's Dilemma and the Game of Dice. Friends, the Mahabharata isn't just a story of kings and battles. It's a mirror reflecting our own struggles with right and wrong. Today, we delve into perhaps the most agonizing episode, the Game of Dice. Here, Yudhishthira, the embodiment of righteousness, stumbles, leading to unimaginable suffering. Yudhishthira was known for his honesty, his dedication to Dharma. Yet, he possessed a weakness, a love for gambling. Invited to a game of dice by his envious cousin Shakuni, a master of deception, Yudhishthira accepts. He believes it's his kingly duty to honor the invitation. What follows is a slow, tragic descent. Driven by a desire to prove himself, fueled by Shakuni's manipulative taunts, Yudhishthira begins to wager. First, his jewels and gold, then his chariots and elephants, his kingdom, his wealth. He loses it all. But the game doesn't stop there. Blinded by the competitive spirit and his perceived duty, he gambles away his brothers, and finally, even Draupadi, his wife. Why? Why would a man so committed to Dharma make such devastating choices? Was it a fatal flaw, a momentary lapse in judgment, or a complex mix of duty and temptation? Consider this. Yudhishthira believed turning down the game was an insult, a violation of the kingly conduct. He valued reputation above all else, even his own family. He also suffered from hubris, excessive pride. He felt confident in his ability to win, a fatal mistake against a cunning player like Shakuni. But there's a deeper lesson here. Dharma isn't always black and white. Sometimes our perceived duties clash with our values. Yudhishthira faced a crossroads, a moment where he had to choose between upholding a tradition and protecting his loved ones. He chose the former, with disastrous consequences. Think of a modern-day CEO facing a critical decision. Perhaps they are under pressure to meet quarterly targets, even if it means cutting corners on safety or exploiting workers. The pressure is immense, the temptation to compromise strong. Like Yudhishthira, they stand at a crossroads. Do they prioritize short-term gain and appease investors, or do they uphold their ethical standards and risk financial repercussions? The choice, like Yudhishthira's, has far-reaching consequences. The game of dice isn't just about gambling. It's about the choices we make under pressure, the compromises we make that ultimately define our character. And in Yudhishthira's suffering, we find a stark reminder of the price of flawed judgment and the importance of staying true to our core values, even when the world pushes us to compromise. Chapter 3, The Disrobing of Draupadi, Upholding Justice in a World of Injustice. Friends, the story of Draupadi's disrobing is a dark stain on the epic of the Mahabharata, a stark reminder of how easily Dharma can be twisted and injustice can prevail. Imagine a queen, a woman of immense strength and dignity, publicly humiliated. Think of power abused and silence echoing through the halls of justice. Yudhishthira, lost in the disastrous game of dice, gambles away not only his kingdom but himself, his brothers, and finally, Draupadi. Duryodhana, fueled by envy and hatred, uses this opportunity to crush the Pandavas, ordering Draupadi to be dragged into the court. Then came the moment of unbearable cruelty, the attempt to disrobe her. Draupadi, in her despair, cries out for justice, questioning the very foundations of Dharma. Bhishma, the wise elder, is silent, bound by his oath to the throne, which is his weakness, just like a top performer who keeps working in an office and could not quit the job even if the boss is harassing them. That's when Draupadi prays to Krishna to save her and keep her honor. Then Krishna protects her. This act reveals the rotten core of the Kuru court, the impotence of upholding justice, and the descent into utter moral depravity. but also it highlights the importance of faith and calling on the divine in the most desperate of hours. Today, this scene echoes in news headlines, in social media feeds, in the countless stories where power preys on the vulnerable. Think of workplace harassment, online bullying, or communities silenced by discrimination. These are modern-day disrobings, stripping people of their dignity and their rights. Just like Draupadi, what can we do about that? Are we silent Bhishmas, bound by comfort or fear? Or will we find the courage to speak out, to stand against injustice, to be the voice for the voiceless? Draupadi's story reminds us that true Dharma demands action, even when it's difficult, even when it's unpopular. It calls us to examine our own involvement in the system and to recognize that our silence is as big a contribution to the system as actively participating in it. Chapter 4. The Years of Exile, Finding Strength in Adversity. My friends, the Mahabharata teaches us that life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. The Pandavas, rightful heirs to the throne, were cheated and forced into a 13-year exile in the forest. Imagine leaving behind your palace, your comforts, your very identity to wander in obscurity. Yet it was during these years of adversity that their true strength was forged. Exile tested their brotherhood. They faced hunger, danger, and the constant threat of discovery. But they remained united, supporting each other through thick and thin. This is a profound lesson. Adversity reveals who your true allies are and strengthens the bonds that matter most. Think of entrepreneurs today. They often face years of struggle, rejection, and near failure before achieving success. Imagine a small business owner who pours their heart and soul into a venture only to face unexpected challenges. Perhaps they lose a major client, face a sudden economic downturn, or struggle with funding. What do? They adapt, they persevere, and they learn from their mistakes. Just like the Pandavas, they find strength within themselves and in their team to overcome the odds. The Pandavas' exile wasn't a vacation. It was a crucible, a process of intense heat and pressure that purified their character. They learned humility, patience, and the importance of inner resources. These are qualities that we all need, regardless of our circumstances. During challenging times, only patience and perseverance pays off. The years of exile proved the strength of character, the real metal that the Pandavas possessed. They emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. Okay, here's the content for Chapter 5 of the Great War of Dharma, Lessons from the Mahabharata. Chapter 5, Krishna, the Divine Strategist, Wisdom and Guidance in Times of Chaos. Imagine a world tumbling into chaos. Opinions clash, right and wrong blur, and everyone feels lost at sea. This was precisely the state of things before the Mahabharata war, and at the heart of it all stood Krishna. He wasn't just another player. He was the divine strategist, the ultimate guide. Krishna's genius wasn't in brute force. It was in his wisdom. He saw the bigger picture, like a chess master planning several moves ahead. He understood the motivations, strengths, and weaknesses of everyone involved. This understanding allowed him to offer guidance that was not always easy to hear, but always aimed at the best outcome. Think of a CEO navigating a company through a massive market shift. They need to see beyond the quarterly reports, understand the shifting consumer needs, and anticipate competitor moves. They must make tough decisions, even when they are unpopular, to ensure the company's survival and success. This is Krishna's role, mirrored in our modern world. In the Mahabharata, Krishna offered this strategic guidance to the Pandavas. He never directly fought, initially. Instead, he used diplomacy, negotiation, and sometimes even a little deception to try and avert war or minimize its impact. His famous peace mission to the Kauravas was a testament to his commitment to finding a better solution. His counsel to Arjuna before the war is perhaps the most well-known example. Arjuna, overwhelmed by the prospect of fighting his relatives, froze. Krishna, as his charioteer and friend, guided him through his doubts, helping him understand his duty and the deeper meaning of action. Krishna understood that sometimes the most straightforward path isn't always the best. He wasn't afraid to use unconventional methods for the greater good. Think of a skilled politician who understands the art of compromise. They may not always get everything they want immediately, but they understand that incremental progress is still progress. They use their understanding of the political landscape to navigate complex negotiations, and achieve positive outcomes. Krishna's divine wisdom reminds us that in times of chaos, we need to look beyond immediate events and understand the larger context. We need to cultivate strategic thinking, allowing us to see all angles and make choices that are ultimately beneficial, even if they require sacrifice or compromise. Chapter 6. Negotiations Fail. The Inevitability of War. Friends, in the Mahabharata, the drums of war weren't sounded overnight. There were attempts at peace, desperate pleas for sanity. Krishna himself, the embodiment of wisdom and compassion, traveled to the Kaurava court as a messenger. He didn't threaten, he reasoned. He offered solutions. He asked for just 5 villages for the Pandavas, enough to live with dignity. But Duryodhana, blinded by greed and supported by his equally arrogant advisors, refused. That refusal wasn't just about land, it was about ego, about power, about a refusal to acknowledge the Pandavas' rightful claim. Why did these negotiations fail? Because those in power had already decided on a course of action driven by selfish motives. They listened only to voices that echoed their own desires, ignoring the pleas of the wise. Think about it. How many times have you seen negotiations fall apart in the modern world? Look at political disputes, business deals gone sour, even family arguments. Often the root cause is the same. One or more parties enter the negotiation not to find a solution, but to assert dominance or protect their own self-interests. Imagine 2 companies vying for a merger. If one CEO sees it as a chance to completely crush the other and absorb their assets, rather than create a mutually beneficial partnership, the negotiation is doomed. Arrogance and a lack of empathy shut down any possibility of true understanding or compromise. Just like Duryodhana, they're digging in their heels, preparing for war, even if it devastates everyone involved. The Mahabharata teaches us a harsh lesson. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, peace is simply unattainable when confronted with unchecked ego and an unwillingness to see beyond one's own narrow view. The quest for Dharma doesn't always mean avoiding conflict. Sometimes it necessitates facing it head-on when all other avenues have been exhausted. And so the path to Kurukshetra became inevitable. Namaste, friends. Welcome. I am so glad to have you on this journey through the Mahabharata, a story not just of war, but of the human heart. Chapter 7. Arjuna's Dilemma. The Bhagavad Gita begins. Imagine standing on a battlefield, the air thick with dust and the cries of warriors. That's where we find Arjuna, a great hero, but one facing a crisis. Facing the might warriors of Kaurava, Arjuna sees his own relatives, teachers, and respected elders. He's not just facing enemies, he's facing family. His bow, Gandiva, trembles in his hand. He sees his grandfather Bhishma, his teacher Drona. How can he fight them? Slaying them is like slaying himself. Krishna, he cries, my limbs fail, my mouth dries up, I cannot bring myself to fight. This isn't just fear of death, it's a moral collapse. Arjuna is torn between his duty as a warrior and his love and respect for his family. He questions the very purpose of this war. What good is victory if it comes at such a cost? His heart aches with compassion, with the realization that victory can be hollow. He is confused about what is right and what is wrong. This profound internal conflict is the spark that ignites the Bhagavad Gita, the very essence of our spiritual discussion. Think about it. Have you ever faced a similar situation? We often have to take certain decisions which are very hard to take. Suppose you saw a friend doing something wrong, like embezzling his company's money. Being a true friend, your duty is to report it. However, as a friend, you feel reluctant to get him into such a big trouble. Arjuna is every one of us. He epitomizes the human condition, faced with impossible choices. He's showing us that even heroes, even the strong, can be overcome by doubt. This is what makes his story relatable, and the wisdom Krishna pours upon him so vital, not just for ancient warriors, but for you and me today. The Gita starts not with a sermon, but with a cry for help. Arjuna's anguish is the entry point, the crack through which divine light can finally stream. Chapter 8. The Essence of Karma Yoga. Action without attachment. Namaste. Welcome back. Today we unravel a vital thread from the majestic tapestry of the Mahabharata, Karma Yoga. Through Krishna's discourse to Arjuna on the battlefield, we discover a path to liberation, a way to live meaningfully, even amidst chaos. Karma Yoga, simply put, is the path of action, but it's not just any action. It's action performed without attachment to its results. Think of it as sowing seeds. Your responsibility is to prepare the land, plant the seeds, and nurture them. Whether the harvest is bountiful or meager is beyond your direct control. Your focus, your dharma, is in the doing. Krishna urged Arjuna to fight, not for victory or revenge, but because it was his duty as a warrior and a guardian of dharma. He had to act, but not be consumed by the potential consequences. How does this translate into our everyday lives? Let's take the example of a student. A student's dharma is to study diligently. They attend classes, complete assignments, and prepare for exams. A student practicing karma yoga doesn't obsess over the grade they'll receive. They focus on understanding the material, applying themselves wholeheartedly, and learning for the sake of learning. The exam becomes simply a measure of their understanding, not the sole definition of their worth. They are detached from the outcome, whether it be an A or a C. This detachment doesn't mean they don't care. It means they don't let the fear of failure paralyze them, or the desire for success corrupt their efforts. They strive for excellence, not for external validation. Think about any task you undertake: writing a report at work, raising a family, pursuing a hobby. Immerse yourself in the activity, doing your best, and then release your attachment to the ultimate outcome. The joy lies in the process, in the growth you experience, in the contribution you make. Karma yoga isn't about avoiding action, but about transforming our relationship with it. By detaching from the fruits of our labor, we free ourselves from the anxieties and disappointments that often cripple us. We find peace in the present moment, in the act of doing itself. And that, my friends, is where true fulfillment resides. Chapter 9. The Nature of Self, Understanding the Atman. Namaste, friends. In the Mahabharata, amidst the chaos of war, lies a profound truth: the understanding of our true self, the Atman. This isn't about our bodies, our names, or our roles in life. It's something much deeper, much more enduring. Think of it like this. You have lots of clothes in your wardrobe. You change them regularly. Does that mean you change fundamentally? No. You are still you. Similarly, the Atman is the unchanging essence within us, the observer, the experiencer. While our bodies are like garments that we wear for a time, when our bodies die, it's like changing clothes. The Atman, however, continues its journey. The Bhagavad Gita, delivered right on the battlefield, is essentially a lesson on this very subject. Arjuna, overwhelmed by the thought of killing his relatives, is struggling with grief and fear. Krishna reminds him that death is merely a change. The Atman is eternal. It cannot be killed. This concept of immortality can be difficult to grasp. We are so attached to our physical existence. But consider this: energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. Modern science confirms this. In a similar way, the Atman, being a part of the universal consciousness, is indestructible. Understanding the Atman leads to freedom from fear, especially the fear of death. It allows us to live more fully, to act with courage, and to focus on what truly matters, living a righteous and meaningful life, not just clinging to our physical shells. It encourages us to find the true purpose of our life and work to fulfill it. The more we get attached to materialistic pleasure, more far we are from our inner self. Mahabharata beautifully teaches us the way to live life with detachment. Namaste, friends. Welcome, and allow me to guide you towards understanding the profound wisdom hidden within the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. Now we arrive at Chapter 10, the battlefield of life, internal conflicts and external wars. The Kurukshetra War, with its armies clashing and heroes falling, might seem a world away from our everyday lives. But I tell you, the battlefield depicted in the Mahabharata exists within each and every one of us. It is a constant, silent war waged between our higher selves, our dharma, our inner goodness, and our lower selves, our ego, our fears, and our desires. Think of it this way. Every morning, you face a battlefield. Do you get out of bed and pursue your goals, or do you succumb to laziness and stay under the covers? That's Arjuna facing his self-doubt before the war. He sees only pain and loss. You see the discomfort of work, the fear of failure. Just as armies face each other across a field, so too do our virtues and vices contend within us. Self-control against indulgence, compassion against anger, patience against frustration. These are the soldiers locked in combat on the battlefield of your mind. The Mahabharata isn't just a story of kings and battles. It's a powerful allegory for the human condition. The external war is simply a reflection of the internal war we all fight. Consider this. Have you ever felt yourself torn between doing what you know is right and giving in to temptation? Perhaps you knew you shouldn't have that extra piece of cake or gossip about a colleague. That tension, that inner struggle, that is Kurukshetra happening within you. Self-control is crucial. It's the ability to rein in our impulses, to choose the path of Dharma even when it's difficult. Think of Yudhishthira, striving to uphold righteousness even when faced with immense pressure. Applying self-control in real life to overcome any bad habits is essential. Overcoming ego is another key lesson. Ego is our false sense of self, the voice that tells us we are better than others, that we deserve more. Just like Duryodhana's insatiable greed led to the war, our ego can cloud our judgment and lead to destructive actions. Remember, humility is not weakness. It is the strength to recognize your limitations and learn from others. We all have inner demons: anger, jealousy, fear, insecurity. These are the negative emotions that hold us back, that poison our relationships, that prevent us from reaching our full potential. Conquering these inner demons is a lifelong journey. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and a commitment to personal growth. The Mahabharata reminds us that the real victory isn't on a battlefield, but within ourselves. By controlling our impulses, conquering our ego, and facing our inner demons, we can create a more just and peaceful world, starting with our own hearts. Embrace the battle, dear friends. Embrace the challenge of becoming the best version of yourselves. The victory of Dharma awaits. Okay, here's a draft for Chapter 11 of your book, The Great War of Dharma, Lessons from the Mahabharata, focusing on Bhishma. Chapter 11, Bhishma's Fall, Honor and Integrity in a Morally Gray World. Bhishma Pitamaha, the great warrior, stands as one of the most complex figures in the Mahabharata. He vowed lifelong celibacy and service to the throne of Hastinapur. This vow, though noble, became a chain that bound him to a dynasty teetering on the edge of darkness. Bhishma's life illustrates the constant battle between personal principles and loyalty to family and duty. His unwavering loyalty led him to support Duryodhana, even when he knew Duryodhana was wrong. This is where the morally gray world becomes apparent. Bhishma, a beacon of righteousness, found himself on the side of injustice because of his promise. Did he truly uphold honor, or did he blindly follow a vow that ultimately contributed to the Great War? Consider this. Imagine you've promised to always support a friend. But then, that friend starts making questionable choices, even harming others. Do you continue to blindly support them, or do you stand up for what you know is right, even if it means breaking the promise you made? It's a difficult position, and this is the same dilemma Bhishma found himself in. His fall on the battlefield wasn't just about arrows, it was a fall from the pedestal of moral perfection. He knew the weakness that led to his defeat, his vow. He allowed Arjuna to wound him gravely, paving the way for the Pandavas' victory. In his final moments, he imparted wisdom to Yudhishthira, offering guidance on dharma and governance. Even in defeat, Bhishma became a source of light. Bhishma's story teaches us that honor isn't always black and white. Sometimes, the most difficult decisions are those that force us to choose between conflicting values. Sometimes, the price of integrity is profound personal sacrifice. His life is a reminder that even the most revered figures can face moral compromises, and that true wisdom lies in learning from those complexities, not in blindly following a fixed set of rules. Chapter 12, Karna, the Tragedy of a Noble Warrior, Bound by Fate. Karna's story is perhaps the most heart-wrenching in the Mahabharata. He represents inherent nobility trapped by circumstance. Born to Kunti before her marriage, he was abandoned and raised by a charioteer. This single act of abandonment shaped his entire life. From the beginning, Karna yearned for acceptance and recognition. He possessed unmatched skill in archery, but his lower caste upbringing barred him from learning from the best. Duryodhana, seeing Karna's talent, befriended him and made him a king, granting him status and respect Karna craved. This bond, however, tied Karna to the wrong side of Dharma in the Kurukshetra war. Karna was known for his unparalleled generosity. He never refused anyone in need, even giving away his divine armor and earrings to Indra disguised as a beggar, knowing it would weaken him in battle. This act embodies selflessness. Despite his inherent goodness and skill, Karna was constantly reminded of his perceived low birth. He faced discrimination and humiliation, fueling his desire to prove himself worthy. This pursuit of validation shaped his choices, often leading him down paths that conflicted with Dharma. The truth of Karna's birth was revealed to him just before the war. Krishna himself tried to sway him to the Pandava side, offering him the kingdom and his rightful place as Kunti's son. Torn between loyalty to Duryodhana and the revelation of his true identity, Karna chose to honor his friendship. He believed abandoning Duryodhana at that critical juncture would be an act of betrayal. Karna's loyalty and generosity are commendable, but his choices ultimately contributed to the war's devastation. His story teaches us that fate and circumstance play a significant role in our lives, but our choices within those constraints define us. Even in a morally complex situation, nobility and honor can shine through. His life reminds us to value intrinsic worth, to look beyond social barriers, and to strive for righteousness despite the odds. Chapter 13, The Victory of Dharma, Rebuilding a Just Society. The Kurukshetra war was over. Mountains of bodies lay where armies once stood. Victory, though achieved, felt heavy. The Pandavas, with Krishna's guidance, had won. But what did they win? A destroyed kingdom, grieving families, and the daunting task of rebuilding a shattered society. Dharma, righteousness, had prevailed, but the path to its re-establishment was far from easy. Think of a house burned down in a fire. The flames are gone, but the soot, the broken timbers, the lasting smell, these remain. Similarly, the war's devastation lingered long after the last arrow was fired. The first challenge was justice. How could they punish the guilty while also extending compassion to those caught in the web of war? Yudhishthira, now king, understood this burden. His decisions had to be fair, but they also had to acknowledge the suffering on all sides. Imagine a company where a manager has acted corruptly. He must be punished. But what about the employees who unknowingly followed his orders? Justice demands accountability, but wisdom requires understanding. Forgiveness was even harder. Could the Pandavas truly forgive those who had wronged them so deeply? Could the families who lost loved ones find solace in a world where their pain felt unending? Forgiveness isn't about condoning wrong actions. It's about releasing the bitterness that chains us to the past. It's like letting go of a heavy stone you've been carrying. It doesn't erase the weight, but it frees your hands. Yudhishthira's reign became a testament to Dharma. He prioritized the well-being of his people and ruled with wisdom and empathy. He established schools, promoted trade, and worked to heal the wounds of war. He understood that true victory wasn't just about power. It was about building a society based on fairness, compassion, and the pursuit of truth. He showed that even after unimaginable loss, hope and justice could bloom again. This is the real victory, not just winning the war, but winning the peace. One act of kindness, one fair judgment, one moment of forgiveness at a time. Chapter 14, Lessons for Today, Applying Mahabharata's Wisdom to Our Lives. Friends, the dust of Kurukshetra long settled, but the echoes of the Mahabharata still resonate in our lives today. This isn't just an old story. It's a mirror reflecting our own struggles and choices. How can we, living in the 21st century, glean wisdom from this epic tale? First, think about Dharma. It's not just rigid rules, but understanding your duty and doing what's right, even when it's hard. In your family, workplace, or community, strive to do what's moral. Sometimes, what seems advantageous isn't right. Yudhishthira's deceit in the war, though seemingly necessary, was still a stain. Then there's karma. Every action, word, and thought plants seeds. A kind gesture towards stranger will bring you peace and inner satisfaction, and that's how the law of karma works. If you are good for another, then at least you will be good for yourself. Leadership is another key theme. The Mahabharata shows us ideal roles model of leader and what not to be. Dhritarashtra, blinded by attachment, is a warning. Good leadership demands fairness, courage, and putting the needs of all above pride. Decision-making becomes easier if you prioritize wisdom over impulse. Arjuna's confusion before battle reminds us to seek guidance, both internal, intuition, and external, mentor, guru. Take time to reflect, weigh the consequences, and consult those you trust. Relationships. Oh, the web of relationships in the Mahabharata. Family bonds, friendships, betrayals. It teaches us the importance of honesty, forgiveness, and understanding. Everyone makes mistakes. Even the mightiest warriors were flawed. Be patient, be kind, and nurture your bonds. Personal growth is the ultimate treasure. The Mahabharata isn't just about war. It's about the internal battle we all face. Recognizing our weaknesses, striving for self-improvement, and embracing the journey of self-discovery is essential. Just like Arjuna's journey through the Bhagavad Gita. In essence, the Mahabharata teaches us to live consciously, responsibly, and with compassion. It's up to us to choose wisely. The choices are ours, and so are the consequences. Strive to do your best, to learn from your mistakes, and to create a more just and peaceful world, starting with yourself. Chapter 15, Beyond the Battlefield, Finding Peace Within. Namaste, dear friends. We've journeyed through the epic tale of the Mahabharata, witnessed battles, betrayals, and moments of profound wisdom. But as the dust settles on the Kurukshetra battlefield, we arrive at a crucial point. What happens after the war? How do we, in our own lives, move beyond the battles we face and find lasting peace? The Mahabharata isn't just a history lesson, it's a mirror reflecting our own internal struggles. Each character, each conflict represents a part of ourselves. And the biggest lesson of all isn't about who won or lost the war, but about how we navigate the inner battleground. Think about it. We face daily battles, problems at work, relationship conflicts, inner doubts, and fears. These are our Kurukshetras. We might win sometimes, securing a promotion or resolving a fight, but victory is fleeting if we haven't addressed the root cause, the underlying tensions within us. The key lies in understanding that true peace isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of inner harmony. It's about cultivating a sense of equanimity, a stability within regardless of the storms raging outside. How do we achieve this? By taking the lessons of the Bhagavad Gita, delivered directly on the battlefield to Arjuna, to heart. Remember Karma Yoga, acting without attachment to the outcome. Apply it to your life. Do your best in every situation, but don't let the results define your worth or shatter your peace. For example, let's imagine you are giving a speech at stage. You put in your best effort in preparing and practicing for the speech. When you go to the stage, you did not perform as you expected and made some mistakes. A person who understands the teaching of Bhagavad Gita will not be saddened by the results, but they will be happy that they performed their karma with full dedication. Furthermore, remember Arjuna's struggle to understand his true self? Understanding our Atman is paramount. We are more than our jobs, our possessions, our relationships. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. By connecting with our inner self through self-reflection, this will give us clarity. The Mahabharata concludes with the Pandavas relinquishing their kingdom and embarking on a final journey. This symbolizes letting go of worldly attachments and seeking ultimate liberation. While we may not physically abandon our lives, we can adopt a similar mindset, cultivating detachment from material possessions and focusing on our spiritual growth. Remember, the journey to inner peace is not a sprint, it's a lifelong pilgrimage. There will be setbacks, moments of despair, and battles that seem impossible to win. But the Mahabharata reminds us that even in the darkest of times, light can be found. By embracing the lessons of Dharma, Karma, and the nature of the self, we can navigate the battlefield of life with grace, resilience, and ultimately find peace within.